Hey, what's going on YouTube? So today I'm going to bring you the Jacksonville Jaguars and some of the things that I'm looking at. But before I get into that, I just want to show you the injuries of the New York Giants. And we have to take all of this information into consideration. So now what we're going to do moving forward, any team that has major injuries, we're definitely have to bet against that team because there's just so much information against betting on a team that has tremendous amount of injuries. So let's go down the list here, and I'm not gonna say all the injuries, it's just too many. I'm just gonna scroll down the list, let you see. And like I said, after week 2 there was a bunch of injuries, and I was obviously right. All these guys on IR. And I know some of these guys probably aren't starters, but what does happen is that it limits the depth of a NFL team, where as though a guy could come in, get a break, and you have a second tier guy come in and he's good for maybe 4 or 5 plays, and they probably won't recognize the change right away. That just limits a team to one guy that they have to depend on, and once he's out because the third string, you put the third string in there, oh man, we have a clear mismatch or a clear advantage against that individual. But getting into the Jacksonville Jaguars, let's talk about the number. So I have a 7 for them. They're going to need a 7 going into the season and under 48 and a half. Now, before we get into it, one of the key notes is the Jacksonville Jaguars have a new head coach. Their talent level is through the roof. I mean, that defensive line they have is crazy. They have a big Samoan guy. He's from Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah. They got another defensive tackle from far Rockaway, New York. You know them boys are tough. You know they're gonna come in and ball. Then you have Josh Allen. He had about 7.5 sacks. They had the other guy they drafted. I can't remember his name, but he was a beast. First number one overall. Well, I don't think he was number one overall, but he was the number one draft pick. They also had another number one linebacker they picked up. Also, their defensive backs are 6 foot, can keep up with wide receivers. They have I think okay safeties, who gained experience last year. If they're new, I didn't really dig deep into the Jacksonville Jaguars defensive backs in that situation. I was more worried about the offensive line, and obviously they have the wide receiver talent, they have running back talent. The only question mark with the Jacksonville Jaguars for them to have a decent season is quarterback play. And from all the reports that I heard, this is his first, I think was it Lawrence first losing season with the Jaguars ever in his football career. So now I have to figure out, or yep, I'm going to figure out what kind of man he is coming into the season. Is he going to take that on the chin and be like, all right, yes, we didn't do too well? Is it going to be, all right, yes, we had a terrible coach? Or is it going to be, all right, yes, I have a lot of things to work on? An individual who takes blame for a team's lack of, I guess, lack of success is an individual who's pretty much is a leader and who's willing to take on the challenge in my eyes. So I'm just trying to figure out if he's going to be that guy. Is he going to come into the season, throw, do the best he can, and have a productive season and get better over time? Which, if he can have a crazy career. I mean, his career could be just off the charts. Yeah, you got the first season out the way. Let's see what you do moving forward. And the Jacksonville Jaguars team has the talent around him to do that. So everything is based on quarterback play. So we're going to be watching that carefully going into the season. The talent is off the charts. Don't get me wrong. They have talented pieces everywhere on this team. They have a good coach in Doug Peterson, and they are going to have a decent season this season, in my opinion. But enough with the Jacksonville Jaguars and me ranting and raving. And I think the Jags and Houston is pretty much on the same level. Obviously, they're in the same division, but I'm expecting a little more wins from those two teams. Now, let's get into it. Under 48 and a half, let's talk about the totals. There's only four games that went over. Obviously, you have the Arizona Cardinals, right? You have the Patriots at the end of the season and two divisional teams with Houston. That was the first game of the season. And you had the Tennessee Titans, which the Tennessee Titans do not have A.J. Brown anymore. And is that going to make a difference moving into the future? Now, again, they did draft another number one wide receiver. Is he going to be ready coming into the season? A lot of these wide receivers coming into the league have been producing. So we have to keep our eyes on that. Because if he produces, they have another number one, and they really don't have to worry about Tennessee having a bad season. I do think they're going to take a step back until that guy is proven. But I have to base all my information in these numbers. Now, these numbers can change based on how well a team is looking and doing in the season. And you have to put in conditional probability that a team is going to do a better than expected, or you can have a conditional probability that a team is going to do worse than expected. Now, all signs is pointing towards the Jacksonville Jaguars to do better than last year. Same thing with the Houston Texans, going to do better than last year. Also with the again, you have the Giants going, just recapping all the weaker teams. You have the Giants. They didn't make any improvements. They had injuries. There's no indication that they're going to improve, but I think they're going to do around the same, maybe a little better because of the experience. Also, the Detroit Lions, due to the injuries, they had a bad season. I think they can do a little better than 3 wins for last season. Just going over that, we have a getting back into the Jacksonville Jaguars. They only won 3 games this year. That was the Miami game. That was right before a bye. A little extra motivation going into that bye week. Buffalo, this was a sandwich game. Buffalo had a divisional opponent. The Jaguars, another divisional opponent. And as you can see with this, 9 and 6 points. So they probably lack preparation and strategy for that game. Also, you have the Indianapolis Colts, Week 18. They pulled out a win. That's not surprising because at the end of the season, it's more likely for these weaker teams to have wins, and that pattern's been consistent. The first 2 weeks really haven't been consistent. Actually, I ran the numbers on the first 2 weeks, and come to find out that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games went over the total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. So that's almost half the games. So I have to take that back. So the first 2 weeks may produce the most points overall, but as far as teams going over the spread, and one key note that I did find that I'm going to use going forward is look ahead games. Most of the look ahead games going into the season, they did not go over the total. And I think that's valid information that I can take into the season this year. So we're going to be looking for that. Also, let's go ahead and let's really recap. And as far as the spread for the 7, as you can see, one game, the Bengals, Atlanta Falcons, New York Jets after week 14, like they were getting destroyed. And I blame most of that on the head coach. I have to blame most of that on the head coach. So some of the things to look for, maybe sandwich games. If we're going to bet on or for the Jags, for the total or for the spread, should I say. Then you have divisional opponents, maybe at the end of the season, if they're having another bad season. Also, if you really want to look at it, and if you really want to, take a real shot at this, teasing this up teasing this Jacksonville Jaguars up is a bad move. So they're opposite. They're opposite. The opposite team you probably want to tease down. So we're just going to take that note into consideration. I lost my train of thought there for a second, but let's get into their opponents. Excuse me. We have the Washington Commanders. We have the Indianapolis Colts, Los Angeles Chargers. Again, their bye week is week 11. Week 11. This game is winnable. Are they going to win it? We don't know. We have to see what kind of team they are in the preseason and how they're doing. The Indianapolis Colts, are they going to win this game? I doubt it. The Colts look really good with Matt Ryan rather than Carson Wentz on that team. Chargers, they're at the Chargers. Yeah. Eagles is tough. This is a possible win. Possible. Um, the Colts, no. I mean, again, if let's see who's at the end of the season. So Tennessee Titans, more likely if they're looking for wins, this is your best shot. We have to go through this whole list, see if any of these teams have schedule issues. Is there a team? All right, let's look at all their home games, and that's another key thing. So again, as you can see, their schedule, it's kind of hard to determine, hey, they may win here, they may win here. We have to look at the other team schedules, and pretty much their wins is based on the other team's schedule and performance. So if you're gonna look for a team to bet on, Jacksonville Jaguars is not the team you want to go in the season looking for profit unless you're trying to bet against them. That's more likely to bet, but with that offense and that talent, you have to be careful going in the season betting against the Jaguars until we see different. Another thing are the home games. So they're at Jacksonville, should I say? And we just look in here, and all the games at home, 7. I'm just gonna go over this for a second, and excuse me. All the games at home, I don't have these on here, but all the games at home, they were kind of blown out by more than 7 points. But I don't know. That's all I have for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I appreciate you guys watching. Next week, I'll probably get into a better team, maybe Philadelphia, I'll talk about. But appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. And most importantly, bet wisely. Later.